Casper.com has created an outrageously comfortable mattress that you can try risk-free for 100 nights. Don't love it? They'll pick it up in-home and refund everything. Go to Casper.com and use code COLIN for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress.
Hey, Russillo Solo today on the podcast. How much has losing affected Colin Kaepernick and how it compares to guys like Belichick and Russell Wilson, how they handle their teams? Winners, losers, there's a theory there. You'll find it. Red Sox lose out on Leicester. Quick take on Magic wanting the Lakers to lose now. Phil Savage in-house with some stuff on the NFL. His days making decisions at quarterback. Max Bretos, Florida State, and modeling. Really, I don't even know what to say about that one. Also, athletes using Twitter to call out other people messing with their ladies. Why, I almost did it once. I've got something to say, and let me ask you a question. Podcast starts now.
Now, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNRadio.com.
Before we get too into what we're going to start off with here today, I think, like a good soap opera, not that I'd want this show to be a daily soap opera, but there are times we talk about ourselves and guys on the show, and people just demand an update. And yesterday we closed the show with Outsider Mike letting the world know that you are all in on the Hungry Man series of food, and we just sort of finished the show. So I've had a lot of people reach out, and they just want a little more information. What can you tell us?
The Hungry Man, I love him. The chicken is good. I kind of stay away from the meat, like the meatloaf and even the ribs. I'm kind of sketchy about.
You'll get one every now and then, right? You'll get a rib plate.
Well, like this week, they were 2 for $5. So,
right.
Yeah, I threw in like a rib, I think, this week.
Now, I heard earlier you were telling people the best way to prepare the Hungry Man series.
Well, my favorite, which I'm probably going to have tonight, by the way, is the honey bourbon chicken.
What was that again?
The honey bourbon chicken. That's my favorite. We're going to have that tonight.
What are the sides?
You got white and yellow corn.
Yep.
Mixed together, of course. You got mashed potatoes. You got the bourbon dipping sauce. And if you kind of like mix them all together, it's just amazing.
What's the most Hungry Mans you've had on stock? Like you said yesterday you had 4. Yeah. Give me the max. Like what's the most that's ever been in your freezer or fridge?
I think I've had 10.
10.
Yeah. I know I had 10 at least because like they were running that deal again, 2 for $5.
Right, and that's when you go all in.
And I just went all in.
Right. Okay.
What did you have for dinner last night? I'm going to have honey bourbon chicken tonight.
I had chicken.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in a tray.
Yeah. Well, maybe started out in a tray somewhere.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Okay, so we have that up to date. Also, I didn't see the guy who's been cutting people in the sandwich line at the cafeteria, so it was a non-conflict zone. So we're caught up. We're good to go. Let's talk some football. So Colin Kaepernick isn't very good right now, and I always ask myself this because I just want to be fair. If there's one thing I've always wanted to do in this job, it's to be as fair as I possibly can. And even times I know I'll contradict myself and I'll be a little hypocritical. I go, I like this guy, I don't like this guy. And sometimes it's for a bunch of different reasons. And sometimes I try to check myself and go, wait a minute, do you not like this guy because of this? Or do you protect this guy? Or do you say better things about this guy because you think he's cool? Like we told Matthew Stafford, we said to him, I don't think we're as critical of you as we should be because we like you so much, but you do throw a lot of picks. And we said, should we be more critical of you or should we remain friends? And he's like, I'd rather just be friends. So, I'm just trying to be as honest with the audience as I can possibly be because I know when I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, I want this guy to really believe what he's saying. So with Colin Kaepernick, let's examine who he is right now. If you asked yourself right now and you said, okay, how do I feel about Kaepernick? And if you're a San Francisco fan, it's a different level of emotion investment in that. I don't know what to tell you. You're probably down on him right now. But I'd imagine most of the NFL fans that look, we're all over these guys. It's not just your team. We have opinions on every single one of these quarterbacks, right? I'd guess that you're not a huge fan. And you're not a huge fan because after his loss this weekend to Oakland in this offense that's been a mess, and by the way, this San Francisco defense is still a top 5 defense. This defense has been really good. That's how bad this offense has been. And it hasn't just been on Kaepernick. It's been the O-line, despite the names, not as steady. The running game hasn't really happened. Vernon Davis is dropping a lot of passes. Crabtree doesn't look like the same guy. So there's a lot of pieces going into this. But when you're the quarterback, you're the one that has to stand up in front of everyone and answer the questions. And when you do it like this, like Kaepernick did this weekend, people are going to be bummed out.
You in particular don't seem to be playing at your usual level the last several games. Do you understand why, aside from not executing?
I have to play better.
I'm sorry?
I have to play better.
I understand that. Do you understand why you're not playing better?
I haven't been playing well.
Okay, we saw that.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Kaepernick, the only quarterback that's actually played that qualifies that has not thrown a fourth-quarter touchdown this season. So that's not the way to do it, right? We see that. We hear him. And the tattoo things, it just doesn't bother me. I think that's always a generational thing. Colin and I will disagree about the hat on backwards. He thinks hat on backwards, you're the worst. I understand his point. I disagree. Sometimes I think it's because I'm younger. The tattoo thing doesn't bother me. The headphones thing bothers me. And maybe if I was 22, the headphone thing wouldn't bother me. You know, that could strictly be a generational thing. But what happens with quarterbacks is we want you to be a certain way, even if we don't believe it. Like if you're the quarterback and that's the message you're trying to sell, oh, wait a minute, this guy can't get it done. Sulks, everybody else's fault, not his, not a leader. Those are the things you start to hear and the questions you start to ask. Russell Wilson, however, nails it. Russell Wilson, after a loss, listen to this guy.
We're just looking for the next opportunity. We have to have that high confidence like we always have, continue to have that swagger like we always play with. And, I reflect back to my rookie year. I think we had 5 losses and won the rest of the games. And so, you just play one game at a time. You keep believing in what we do. We keep believing in the guys that we have and the coaching staff and the fans that we have. We've got the best fans in the world. And so we just keep going.
And we're talking about Russell Wilson, who a dude from the tight end for the Lions, Fourier, is like, Russell Wilson stole my girlfriend. Russell Wilson's quoting Thoreau on Monday. Okay, that's what he was doing on Twitter. So he nails it. SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance, all of our guests on the Subway Fresh Steak Hotline. I don't believe really much Wilson says, even though he plays the role the right way. I'm not telling you Kaepernick's nailing it, but Wilson, to me, actually that stuff bothers me more, like after a loss.
For whatever reason, we were just off just by a little bit, and I'll take the blame for it. I think I could have played a lot better, and that's the thing you look forward to.
It's just rehearsed. I've been over this. I know I'm completely on my own. I'm on an island with this Russell Wilson thing. I'm okay with it, okay? I know everybody disagrees with me. But I think it comes down to one simple thing, more than anything else, and that is, do you win? So Wilson plays the role the right way. Kaepernick's playing it the wrong way. But if you want to be a jerk, you better win. And who better than the all-timer?
So do you mentioned Tom's stage at the draft?
We're on to Cincinnati.
Do you think having a 37-year-old...
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
Well, I'm just asking, do you think you've done enough to help Tom Brady?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati. That's what we're doing.
There's almost no difference between Belichick and Kaepernick. It's the same message. It's the same tone. It's the same, I don't even want to be here. How dare you even ask me these questions? But Belichick has the resume. And I think that has more to do with it than anything else. Oh, is he nice? Is he likable? Is he playing the game? Have you won? Have you won in this league? And if you've won, you can act any way you want to. Look at Pete Carroll. Pom-Pom Pete. Can't get it done with the Pats. He's a joke with the Jets. Goes to USC. Okay, but can he really do it in the pros? They win a Super Bowl. That guy's on the cover of magazines talking to CEOs. I was at the bookstore the other day. Yeah, I still go to bookstores. And I see Pete Carroll on the cover, like the secret to the success. It's because he won. It's no different. He's not a different guy. It's the same approach. And now people want his help. And people are playing music in practice now because Pete Carroll won. So for Kaepernick, I think he can get away with that if he'd actually won. If he completes one more pass against the Baltimore Ravens, he's probably consumed a different way. Remember when Peyton Manning lost to the Steelers in 2006 in the playoffs? Hadn't won a Super Bowl yet. He said this about his team in that playoff loss.
I'm trying to be a good teammate here. Let's just say we had some problems in protection. But like I said, I'll give Pittsburgh credit for their blitzes and their rush. Those guys rushed, but we did have some protection problems.
Manning got crushed for that. Crushed. He's calling out his teammates, even if he was telling the truth. Even if he was saying we have protection problems, he wasn't playing the game. Russell Wilson would have never done that. Are you kidding? Russell Wilson calling out a teammate? He'd retire before he did that. But it's pretty simple. Kaepernick hasn't won to the level, even though he's been right in those NFC Championship games. If you don't get that ring, people aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt. People aren't going to want to hear your message, especially if it's as surly as you saw from him this weekend.
SVP and Russillo.
I hate hearing that clowny news. I never like to think of players as busts. strictly because of injury, and that's where this is already going. And you knew there was the debate about him coming out. Is he really the number one guy? And I'm like, as soon as he starts working out for these teams, they're going to just freak out about it again. He's going to go number one. He went number one. And then he had a really hard time getting on the field. You kept hearing rumblings for probably a month prior to him first getting action where the coaches are saying, you got to get back out there. You got to figure out a way to get out there and play. So maybe he was more hurt, and that's why there was a delay in this whole thing. But Clowney played well in college. Okay, Clowney was a great football player at South Carolina. I know he dipped a bit there his junior year, but a bust, as far as my definition has always been concerned, is somebody that just can't do the job, has never shown you that he can do the job, and still ends up being a pick. SVP and Russillo here. Just Ryan. Van Pelt is in Annapolis today. We're going to have Phil Savage in studio in about 10 minutes. Presented by Progressive Insurance, you can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. So John Lester, the Cubs. What do you do today if you're a Red Sox fan? How mad do you get? Who do you get mad at? You get mad at Lester? No. And trust me, the fact that Theo and Hoyer are running this Cubs front office, there was an extra price to pay to keep Lester from going back to Larry Lucchino and John Henry. Not Cherington, but there's no doubt in my mind. You think if I went solo one day and was going up against Van Pelt, I wouldn't want to beat him in the ratings? Of course I would. Doesn't mean we can't be friends, but that's the way these guys work, especially when it's actually real stuff and it's competitive and we're talking about sports. So the Cubs' final numbers, and these numbers always trickle in a little bit later. You go, the Cubs gave him 6 years, $155 million, and potentially a seventh year that could be another $25 million or a $10 million buyout, a full no trade. So the more you start looking at where these latest numbers were reported for Lester, not just the 155, some money on top of that, and the Sox come in at 6 years and $135 million, I don't really think it was as close as maybe I thought it was when I first woke up today. And my feeling all along was with Lester, despite his connection to the Sox, feeling comfortable, and you got to imagine he wanted to go back there at some point, right? I don't think this was him messing with the girl last minute, leading her on, and then be like, actually, I never really want to date you. That if it was neck and neck, he would go to Chicago because of what the Red Sox did last offseason, and that was insulting. There's really no other way you can explain this. Here's Lester, the best pitcher on this team, a Red Sox team that had cut payroll. They cut a ton of payroll with that Dodgers trade. And they signed some guys, but they weren't long-term deals, and they put together that ridiculous 2013 season, where I still can't believe they won a World Series. And they offer Lester 4 years and $70 million. Like, I understand them going for the hometown discount. Lester even said he was willing to take one. But how could you just not read the market that way? Like, how could you misread it that poorly that you offer your best pitcher, the most important piece of your staff, 4 years and $70 million? Do you think he was just stupid? I know there were stories about how Josh Beck used to, like, one extension, he walked around in the outfield and Theo Epstein said, do you want to stay here? He's like, yeah, I guess so. Okay, let's throw together an extension. It was way below market value. So I don't know if the Beckett thing led to them thinking that they'd be able to steal money from Lester. And that's, I mean, if you could sit there and say, well, they had a right to make that offer. There are offers if you're in real estate and somebody goes, well, that's $1 million house. Put me down for $400,000. The realtor just looks at you and goes, I can't even bring that to my guy. I can't. That's such an insulting offer. We will not counter. It happens all the time. And that's what Lester did. They weren't countering. The Sox wanted to talk to him again throughout the season. Lester's like, no, we're good. If Matt Cain gets a $6 million deal, a 6-year deal for $130 million, depending on how you look at the free agency years, Cain goes 6 for $130. Cole Hamels goes 6 for $144. If Homer Bailey in the same offseason gets 6 years and $105 million, you can't even look yourself in the mirror and offer Lester 4 years and $70 million, especially when you're Boston. More TV money. We're starting to see those contracts creep up more and more. We talk about baseball, how it's not a national topic, but you know what? You look at it regionally with these networks, it's stupid, the ratings. Primetime baseball numbers, local markets, 19 of the 30 clubs are the top 3 rated program in their market. 12 teams are the number 1 primetime viewing choice in the United States, not Toronto. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So we could sit here and make fun of baseball. Oh, it's getting older. It's not doing this. The money is there in these local networks, and these teams are starting to spend it. And for the Red Sox who clean up on NESN to not realize that, and I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem right now with a Red Sox fan going, I'm not mad at the Red Sox now for not matching the Cubs deal of $170 million with all these other factors in there. But if you're a Red Sox fan, you really should be mad that this team thought they could get away with keeping Lester around for 4 years and $70 million, because it's a total screw-up. Joe Madden, now the Cubs manager, on his new ace.
We have a nice ball club. It's relatively young, or very young, actually, not relatively young. On the field, the pitching staff needed to be solidified. Jason Hamill helped do that. Now all of a sudden you get John Lester in there. Beyond his pitching ability, what it does within the clubhouse among the other guys, when you talk about playoffs and World Series, it becomes more believable. So now with that addition, now selling the concepts of accountability, et cetera, become a little bit easier.
Same offseason, I'll say it one more time. Homer Bailey, 6 years, $105 million. The Red Sox offered John Lester 4 years, $70 million, and now he's on the Cubs. Not hard to figure that one out. SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. Real quick, Magic Johnson, who in times I've gotten, I'll just say annoyed with, because I just felt like he shouldn't have done the stuff he said about Mike D'Antoni. He's probably one of my favorite basketball players ever. I always feel like I have to throw these qualifiers out there so it doesn't sound like I'm anti-Magic, because I'm not. But he's a public figure, has a lot to say, and sometimes he says stuff that I don't agree with. And last time I was solo, I went on that Lakers rant where I just go, you see the product, right? Every one of you were wrong. You were wrong about the new coach. You were wrong about let's switch to defense. They're an embarrassingly bad defensive team. Kobe, Vino, know your worth, know your sport, all that stuff. Didn't add up. No one took your money. On and on and on. I don't want to do the same segment over again. But Magic, the reason I've been critical is at times because I feel like if Magic is anti-Laker, then everybody who's a Lakers fan, he's the most influential voice, right? The most influential guy to Lakers fans around the country. So if he says something, Lakers fans buy into it, and they go, wait a minute, Magic said this, and Magic said this coach isn't good, and how come this didn't happen? We should have done this, because it's Magic Johnson. And I get that. So the fact that he would say last night at an event in New York, quote, I hope the Lakers lose every game, because if they're going to lose, and I'm serious. And that was him talking to reporters. Now, Kobe said, well, that's an owner. I hope he doesn't feel that way. And I understand Kobe's out there every night, tipping it up, taking 25 shots, and trying to win games, okay? But Magic's right. Because if the Lakers are going to turn this thing around, they're keeping that pick and not winning enough games that keeps them out of the bottom 5 of the draft. So I actually like that he said this. So people can act like they're shocked. First of all, Magic's right. I don't like it with the NBA. I don't like that that's the path that everybody seems to take. You know, teams that have one injury now, it feels like, okay, well, they should just tank. You can't have 15 teams trying to tank in a league in the same year. But the fact that Magic said this, maybe, just maybe, has Lakers fans going, yeah, you know what, maybe because Kobe really, really wants it this year, that's not going to be enough to get this team into the playoffs.
SVP and Russillo.
From our NFL Insider Show and also the radio analyst for Alabama football. It's Phil Savage, a guy we've got to know. We've been down at Tuscaloosa a lot over the years, my time with Game Day, so thanks for hanging out with us for a little while.
Good deal, Ryan. Great to be in studio.
I know, right?
Instead of over a cell phone.
Perfect. So we're going to hang out with you a little while. We'll do some college, we'll do some NFL. But first, just so people understand your background. I mean, I remember McShay would talk about you, be like, this Phil Savage guy is pretty good. You know, you were in the front offices for a long time. Yeah. How long was it for you?
I spent 20 years in the NFL, first with the Browns as a coach under Bill Belichick and a guy named Nick Saban. Then I transitioned over into scouting 1994 and stayed in that vein of the game as we transitioned from Cleveland to Baltimore, became the Ravens. Of course, the Ravens won a Super Bowl in 2000. That inevitably, as a scouting director, personnel director, is going to put your name in the hopper as a potential GM candidate. And I went back to the New Browns in 2005, survived 4 years in Cleveland. And then after that, I went to the Eagles for 2.5 years, and then ultimately found my way back to my hometown at the Reese's Senior Bowl. So I spend almost all of the fall scouting players and trying to build out 2 rosters for really what we think is the preeminent bridge from college to professional football. So I got 4 jobs going, and it's all fun.
Well, I'm glad we got you. You sound like you're qualified to talk some football with us on the show. What's the toughest decision you've had to make on drafting a quarterback?
Oh, toughest decision going back through the years. You know,
probably a year you had maybe more pull than just say a scout.
You know, the one that we felt the best about was in 2007 when we were able to grab Joe Thomas at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we had high grades on Brady Quinn, but we did not think he was a better player than Joe Thomas. And ultimately, we traded with the Dallas Cowboys, moved back into the first round. And, I mean, on that given day, I think most of the Browns fans, including the Browns organization, myself, our coaching staff, felt like, hey, we just got a left tackle and a quarterback. And unfortunately, it did not work out for Brady. I'm not sure that he ever really got a full-fledged chance to be the quarterback with all of the necessary assets around him. You know, there's a lot of turnover within the organization. Within 2 years, Romeo Crennel, who was our head coach at the time, he and I both were fired. And, you know, when you have regime changes, it's very difficult on quarterbacks to find some footing. So that's been a real disappointment that did not work out, because on the surface and on paper, you couldn't have chosen a better guy. He had all the intangible qualities, a lot of the real positives that you look for in terms of a face of your franchise, and it just didn't happen.
Well, Quinn drafted in 2007, as you mentioned, that 22nd pick in the first round, and we know how tough it is with this position, and the Browns are facing this challenge right now again and going with Manziel this week. You saw Manziel firsthand, first 2 years there, doing SEC games at Alabama, and you saw 2 of his better ones. How do you think this is going to play out with him at quarterback?
You know, I think short term, these next 3 weeks, I think he can actually have some success. The key for the Browns right now is to be able to run the football. And they're playing Cincinnati this weekend. The first go-around, they rushed for 170 yards, so it really didn't matter who the quarterback was. They were going to win that football game. Of course, Andy Dalton had 3 interceptions that night. But with Manziel, they can add the element of the zone read, where he's a threat to run. He is accustomed to throwing to a big wideout in Mike Evans, who he had at A&M for those 2 years, and now he's got Josh Gordon. So Kyle Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, has schemed some receivers wide open. Brian Hoyer just missed them, and that's why they're making this change, because they feel like that they've left yardage and points out on the field because of just basically misfired or missed throws. And then the third thing is the Bengals only have 13 plays to look at over the course of the season. So even though
Manziel actually being on the field, right?
Yeah, even though Marvin Lewis says, hey, we're not going to change our defense, we're going to – yes, they'll stay true to the concepts, but they will have to decide, are they going to muddle rush and try to contain Manziel and keep him in the pocket and make a 6-footer throw out of a well, or will there be times where they try to pressure him, slice the pocket, make him reverse out of the pocket, get out on the perimeter, and then have a spy or some sort of mirror-type defender. And that's what a lot of the teams, or at least some of the teams, I know Alabama tried without a lot of success the 2 times they faced him in 2011 and then 2012, or actually 2012 and 2013.
I thought his throwing against Alabama was what, especially in Tuscaloosa, some of the throws he made in that game were the best throws he had made in his entire career, I thought.
Yeah, I really thought both games, the one in Tuscaloosa and then, of course, back out in College Station the next year, he had a very good feel for throwing the perimeter fade ball, the back shoulder fade with Evans. But then he was smart enough to realize that when he got the matchups in the slot that he liked, he could throw the ball to the inside, obviously, if he had enough of a gap or enough window, a lane to throw the ball through. So he's a guy that, again, because there's not a very big book on him at the pro level, I think he can find some success these first 3 games that he starts. We won't really know the real truth about long-term success with Johnny Football until we get into the next season and he goes through the lineup, if you will, the first time, and then people come back and take away some of the things that he does best. Look at Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer had some really nice success, but after people got enough footage on him, he's 10-5 as a starter, now 10-6 as a starter. Sounds pretty good. But then over these last 4 or 5 ball games, people really began to dial in on taking what he did best away and making him beat them with an alternate pitch, and that is life in the NFL.
Phil Savage in studio, former front office executive in the NFL and coach, now one of our NFL insiders and also the Alabama radio analyst. Jadeveon Clowney now, microfracture. You never like hearing that, especially with these bigger guys, the number 1 overall pick. It was a disappointing year. You heard grumblings about, does he even want to get back onto the field? You thought, oh, no, is he going to be one of these guys? But now we know this injury is serious that he has now. 9-month table. What do you think is going to happen here with him once he comes back from all this?
Wow, this is a really tough situation for the Houston Texans. They take him number 1 overall because of the immense raw ability. The problem is that as a last-year player in college, there was some question about the absolute desire to want to prove I'm a great player. And I've made the statement, and we had a meeting about it because we have insiders later this afternoon, that, look, I think that there was the goal and objective to become the number 1 pick in the draft. But then that's when the game and the clock really starts, because you have to push and elevate yourself beyond just what your draft status is. You've got to go prove it. You've got to go show that you can develop a counter move other than just a speed rush around the corner. And now you throw a microfracture surgery into it. Very difficult. Now, there are players that have come back from it. Dan Marino had one. Bruce Smith had one. Rod Woodson had one. But then you look in the NBA, and there's a lot of players that have never returned to form with this. And one of the real issues for Jadeveon Clowney is the fact that he was trying to transition from defensive end to outside backer. Now he's going to miss all those reps this spring, just kind of the incubation time in terms of trying to make that change to a new position. And I think the bottom line here is he may come back and flash some big plays and do okay for 2 or 3 years. But to say that he's going to have a career longer than 4 or 5 years, I think that's very much in doubt now.
SVP and Russillo.
All right, we knew this would be a little different. Max spread us in studio for the next 30 minutes. SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. All of our guests, Subway Fresh Take Hotline. I had a plan.
No, stick to the plan.
Okay, we'll stick to the plan. All right, so the last time we corresponded, we went out to dinner, and then we said, let's make plans. Next week, we saw Point Break Live together, and then you'd thrown another little social endeavor out there, and I have not since replied.
No, you didn't. The Guar?
Yeah. This is the text I get from Max last Friday afternoon, by the way.
I knew you were setting up with that. I just wanted a response.
Max sends me this. I'll be in Miami, but you should go down to Toad's in New Haven Friday the 13th and see Guar. Hope you are well. And I just, every now and then I'm bad. I won't respond. It's nothing personal. I just don't. And then when I don't, you get lost in the shuffle of things I didn't do.
I'm sorry. Now, when you read it out like that, I could see it.
Right. So I still have time. I guess I could still head down
Technically, it's Friday the 12th. It wasn't the 13th.
Oh, all right.
But, I mean,
that would make sense, though, for Guar. Yeah. Like, that would be an epic one. One of the Friday the 13th shows. I will not be heading to that. Okay. Florida State's in the playoffs.
If I was here, I would.
Yeah, I know you would. Who'd you go see by yourself?
It was like a punk rock fest in Hartford, and the headliner was X, which isn't too hard. But then they had some other bands that were just off the deep end and small bands.
You just needed to be out of the house, right?
Yeah, it was one of those things I didn't. It was good, but it wasn't ideal to go by myself. But it would have been. But I stayed there for 4 hours. I'm glad I went. I'm trying
4 hours by yourself.
Yeah, it was like Swedish death metal guys, everything going up there. There's a couple bands names that escape me. But
well, maybe we'll tweet those out a little bit later.
Yeah.
You came in armed with headshots of when you were 18 years old. These are absolutely magnificent with your measurements. We will tweet out a picture of these a little bit later. I don't want the people listening on radio to feel like they're left out. I guess you brought in props. But before we go through all the props and your modeling memoir or diary or whatever else you brought in, what do you do? What do you do if you're me and Florida State fans are yelling at me from time to time?
There's not much I can tell you. You know who else I hear an earful from this about is Brett McMurphy, who's at wit's end with the Florida State fan base. I don't hear it because, as we said last time,
you're one of them.
I champion their cause here. I kind of, I cast a blind eye, deaf ear, and say.
I mean, but do you defend them? I don't even look. They're in the playoffs. I don't think anybody's saying that they're not one of. No one's saying that they shouldn't be one of the 4 teams. That's ridiculous.
It's disappointing to hear that. When I would see every week Jeff Long come out and talk about the playoff positions, I would get frustrated. So if they echo those frustrations, then I can get that. Anything beyond that may be a bit excessive. And I understand when they go overboard defending Winston and some of the behavior. I try and stay away from that. I go, okay, he's still there, he's playing, let's carry on. But my only issue was with the committee sometimes coming out and having a different message each time, and that I found a little frustrating with regards to how Florida State was sliding down the polls.
So wait a minute. Do you think Florida State should be number 1 overall in this?
Yes. In the old system, I would say you do what your part, you go undefeated, which they did, and they would have been there anyway. Now, I would be lying to you to say that I don't think Alabama and Oregon are better teams, and I think Oregon's going to win by 10 points or more.
Whoa, not confident at all.
No, I mean,
Phil Savage just got done telling me off the air he loves Florida State in that matchup. Loves it.
All right. Well, I did this reverse psychology with Georgia Tech. It worked, although that was I like what I saw
It
then.
helped the team, your emotional stance.
Yeah, I did. I feel I have a little bit more reach, but I just don't understand how being the undefeated team had so much cachet, and then it went to, hey, you can barely make the playoffs when there's 4 teams, yet you're guaranteed to make the national championship game when there's 2. It went so black and white there. I did the middle ground somewhere if we can grab onto that, but it seemed like that was off the table.
I agree. If this was just the BCS and it's Bama and Florida State. I don't think there's any way an undefeated Florida State is out of the top 2. And there was something that I was doing this exercise earlier in the week. We're going to do it on the air. Maybe we'll do it at the end of the week. But if you look at the way the committee's voting influenced the next week's coaches and AP poll, you can see that Florida State would get dropped a bit in the 2 human polls that don't matter anymore in the AP and the coaches, and where the committee would be the first. They would go, you know what, we're okay with dropping them even with that undefeated record behind a 1-loss Oregon.
Seemed like there's different criteria as well each time. The one that got me was when he said, look, it's okay now to lose, or if you lost to a top 25 team that's not ranked anymore, that still will bode well for you. If he said that earlier, I'd been okay, but it seemed to have come 2 weeks from the end.
So they're biased against you.
I'm not saying biased, but I think in a perfect world, we don't have the weekly release of the polls. We somehow we can prognosticate and so forth, but we will have the finished product at the end. So we are not in a position like they were with TCU where they could put them at 3 and all of a sudden down to 6 based on 1 week where they won.
Right.
I mean, that's a high price to pay.
Max Bredesen, studio with us, presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now, that's Progressive. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. So how does this 18-year-old, fresh-faced, I mean, this doesn't even look like you, dude.
Well, a little bit. Is he the one that you seen the back?
The back. All right, what are the measurements here? We've got 6'1".
That's still 6'1".
Okay. You were a 38 chest size?
42 chest now.
You were a 42?
Yeah.
Okay.
42 long.
Hips 38? Is that bad or is that good?
I don't know what that is. If it's a waist, I'm a 38 waist right now.
You're a 38 waist now?
By the way, people are listening. Go, could you cut the Florida State chatter and get to this? I haven't changed that much. I was probably about 155 then, and I'm like,
what do you weigh now?
I weigh like 200.
Okay, so this is 45 pounds ago.
Yeah.
And what are we? This is over 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, 94.
All right, I'm going to tweet out a picture at Ryan Aversill a little bit later. So how does this modeling thing in Italy happen with what are these headshots?
You go there, you get some headshots, and you just you'll get photographers to take stuff, or you can put in your book. And
where's your book? You don't have it?
Well, this is what happened. There's a gentleman in Miami who got me started. His name's Al. I'll just call him. And he worked at the Miami agency.
Weird Al.
And when I was done, that would have been appropriate. It was that kind of business. When I came back from Miami, I had my book, and I had some jobs, and I was excited. He goes, hold on, we'll hold on to it for you. And then when I came back a couple months ago, my intentions were, I'm done with modeling. It was a very short stint. I was going to start getting into this business, but I wanted the book. And he goes, we'll look for it. I can't find it. Pretty sure it was on the premises, but they kind of gave me the elbow there.
Because you were out of the business.
Yeah, and they kept it for whatever reasons. I can't say this for sure, but I came back 3 times, and I couldn't get it for me. So it was pretty disappointing. There was some good stuff in there.
Sounds dicey.
Sentimental, I know.
And you have one other prop for ESPN News here that you want to?
Yes, this was my book.
Were you writing a book?
Sentimental value. There was the booker's name's Massimo, and he would put where you had to be every day. So like here, this is June 23rd.
What year?
1994.
Wow.
All right. So this is how he would say.
Midnight Marauders came out that year.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I don't even know what that means.
That's all right.
Okay. In his voice, he go, okay, Max, this is your day today. 10:30 Valentino via Manzoni. 10:30, you have to be finished by 11:30 because you're at Gilmar at Otmar on Via San Andrea. Listen, at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, Dolce & Gabbana are going to be in the studio. You have to be there for 10 minutes to see you, and then that's it. It's your booking. And that'd be it. It's all right. It was just good to do that.
How long did that go on for?
I did it for a month, 2 months overseas. 2 years were about 2 months each time. And I could have done it a little longer, but I was eager to do it. But it was so much fun, and I regret not doing it a little bit longer.
Did you go out every single night?
Most nights. There was a place called, I want to get hold of this guy. His name's Joe. And we went out to this place called Club Hollywood, and they loved Americans. You didn't have to pay stuff.
Free cover for Americans.
Free cover, no line, but you'd have to pay for your drinks. But you'd go there and carry on, and it was a real hoot. And we'd go there, and all the bands of the day and people that were going through, especially for Fashion Week, they would be there, and then you'd see them. I saw Eric Clapton there. Once I saw, what's his name? Actor from
Gerard Depardieu.
No, the young guy. I'm drawing a huge blank now.
Robert Downey Jr.
No, he was in The Aviator. He was in A Wolf of Wall Street.
DiCaprio?
DiCaprio.
I know. I knew it was. I was trying to think of somebody else.
And then once we had a band called Take That. Remember, there was an English boy band.
Sort of.
Yeah, I got in a little shoving match with them.
You got to do it. You got to fight with it.
And I told everyone, let's get out of here. And then I went back. Oh, this is a bad scene because their security got involved. And then when we get back to the residence, the guys that stayed there, including the guy Joe, I would love to talk to him, maybe brought on the show, missing tooth, and they just got demolished. My sense said get out of there, which I did, and then to Take That security.
So Take That, a British boy band, security beat up your posse.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just getting started here, folks. Yeah. We're just getting warmed up. It's time for you to ask Max Bretos any questions. Everything's on the table.
Oh, boy.
888-SAY-ESPN.
And, Joe, if you're out there and you're listening, give us a call. Joe Kelly, I know you're there.
888-729-3776, a Max Bretos edition, an international edition of what? Next on ESPN Radio. Is there anything more demeaning than standing outside that maximum security plastic Razor Fortress in the shave aisle at the store waiting for someone to come and lock it? Also getting beat up by a British boy band security.
SVP and Russillo.
If an outsider, you're going to roll with Bretos one night.
Hey, it's a date.
Seriously?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All
Why
right.
not?
Oh, my gosh.
War on Friday? Oh, I'm out of town.
He's going to bring him to Miami with you.
All right, well, I'm staying at my mom's house. I'd rather go if we had a hotel and we could go get after it. It's going to be pretty.
I'll pay for one night.
I've got friends down there.
All right.
Stay with probably.
That art thing's going on.
Still, no, it's already passed.
Oh, yeah.
But I stay clear of the city when that stuff's going on. That's just out of my depths at this point. I look like an undercover policeman.
What's it called again? I swear.
Art Basel.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever heard of it, and now I've done is heard about it all week long.
It blew up in no time at all. It was like a small sort of art gathering, and now it's kind of like Park City Film Festival or whatever it is. I can't remember anything anymore.
Right.
But Sundance? It was Sundance. It was small, and now everyone's there, and they do everything except see movies. People go down there, do everything but look at art. It's kind of one of those deals.
All for it. Max Bretos in studio, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. This is what we're doing. We heard a lot of demand for it after Bretos hanging out with us. We're going to tweet out his picture a little bit later of his headshot. It's truly amazing. Maybe we'll keep one of these for in studio.
As my dad says, that was about 2,500 Scotch and waters ago. Which is not that many. That's just him saying that. He's trying to be funny.
I don't know. If we average it out over 20 years.
Not that many.
Is it that bad? Okay, here's the deal. 888-SAY-ESPN. Stop wasting time. Max Bretos, what? We'll start with Adrian in Wyoming.
Bretos, love the show, guys. If you and Russillo were in Vegas for one night, what would you do?
I'd defer to Russillo. I mean, I like to stay inside the resort or hotel I'm at and do things within those four walls, whether it's the bars and stuff, and maybe get outside because if I might get overserved, I don't want to kind of hit the strip too much. I like to stay within those confined.
I need a late, big steak dinner.
I'd have to get that earlier.
I'd
have to get that earlier.
Late? No, why? You're gonna get tired?
I'd have to go liquid diet after that. They don't get tired after a big steak dinner if it's at 2 a.m. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not saying 2 a.m. All
right.
Well, wait, this is in Italy. I'm with you on that. I think the most fun I've ever had is when I try not to go do the epic thing in Vegas. And you stay, but you got to have the rooftop.
It's got to be summer. It's got to be swimming pool involved.
Right. Have the rooftop.
I'd rather just blow it all out during the day, get sunburnt, and then pass out early.
Cabana. Okay, Corey in Tennessee, what?
What's up, Max? What's up, Ryan?
Hey, Corey.
I actually went and saw War and Tool in concert, and it was pretty crazy. I was wondering what's the craziest concert you've ever been to?
See, that is a good experience. The craziest concert I've ever been to wouldn't be that crazy. It's just nothing I would see, but I called in to get tickets for a concert show, and I got backup plan, and it was PM Dawn and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and it was terrible. It wasn't for me, but I went because they were free. But I made it crazy.
PM Dawn had a good window there, though. For a little while.
It wasn't a good concert experience. But I've been to some great stuff. I'd see like Judas Priest. I've seen Maiden maybe 15, 16 times.
Obviously. Let's go to French from Mississippi.
That's not crazy. That's normal.
French, what?
Frenchy.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, French.
You hear about the supermodels, the taller the better? If SVP had Russillo's body, would a male tall model be a superstar?
Oh, all right, 6'7",
with your good looks. I think you're looking at Armani. You're looking at the big shows, Versace. I mean, that's going to be quite
a Van
presence.
Heusen. It's Van Heusen. Who are you kidding?
Yeah. dating the top model of the time.
Let's go to Cody in Atlanta. What?
Hey, guys. Love the show. Just wanted to ask Max, what was his love life / game overseas, and is there anything specifically he did to impress the ladies?
Pretty poor college, really poor game. Over there, starting to come out of my shell.
Yeah, but you were a model once you were in Tallahassee. How
No, I wasn't. I was after Tallahassee.
Oh.
And that was after school. I actually traveled. So even then, I was starting to get my legs. Where my game was really good was when I moved to L.A. before I met my wonderful wife. And that was, I don't know what I
do.
did.
She loves hearing that story.
I don't know. Sometimes you got to come in strong sometimes. Just sit there and, don't dilly-dally. That's what I told.
We'll run through these.
Just be funny. Humor's the best way. Humor's the best way.
Or some money and a good job.
Yeah.
Adam from South Dakota. What?
Hey, Max, if you could go back to when your crew got founded over in England, who would you rather have, Sanford Steve in his prime or Russillo in his prime to have your back?
That's good, Steve, right? I mean,
Steve is the right.
But I would tell both of you guys to leave because the guys that they were in front of us were twice his size, and I don't think it would have done us any good. I mean, these are professional bouncers or professional security guys that
Schlereth types.
Big Schlereth, big lobster claw hands that would just chew you up and spit you out.
Those stupid boy bands from England.
It's amazing how many people are just
right because it's
really
their fault. They started it. They're a boy band. They were acting like punks.
I knew. I smelt it from a while ago, and I walked away with my teeth.
Brett us in studio. What? SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. Damon from South Carolina. What?
Everyone has a scar. Tell me your favorite scar story.
I don't have too many scars, but my best scar story is right here, about 8 stitches. I had socks on. I was a kid running across the second floor of our house. Sister's throwing stuff in. Went after her, slipped by her, went through the window.
I have 2. I crashed a moped, pretty good. Chunks missing from my kneecap.
That's better than mine.
And a cigarette put out of my arm, my left arm.
I had my cigarette put out of my forehead by a friend. The scar finally went away. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know. He thought it was funny.
Story?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was just.
Was it funny?
People overserved. It wasn't funny to me. It was
people
quite
were
painful.
overserved? No way.
He was like, hey! And I go,
you can't do that to a model. You can't put a cigarette out.
You ruined a career. This is serious.
Right. Imagine if that happened to Zoolander.
Yeah.
That was a sequel.
Zoolander. The big model of the day back when I was there was Mark Vanderloo.
What's he doing now?
I don't know. You'll recognize if you see him. He's probably still making some coin off of it.
He stayed in shape?
Yeah. One time I was getting all uppity and the agent said, "Oh, excuse me, Max Vanderloo."
So that was a heckle.
Yeah.
That was a what's the most you made in one I guess shoot?
There was like one thing for Phillips, like shaving there, you have to do something. I'd do about $5,000, which was great. Sometimes you make $200, $500 a pop here and there, and that's it. Tax.
I think what was it? Statute of limitations on that one.
Yeah, never mind.
It'll be okay.
I'm sure I paid my taxes on it somewhere.
They paid you in gelato.
Yes. I love gelato.
It's always too short. I don't really know what else to say.
Can I show you the last thing I brought?
Yes.
I didn't think I'd ever use this on TV, but I mean, I don't know why I kept this, but I decided after one day dancing I'd keep this, but, now's the time to break it. It's one of my prized possessions.
SVP and Russillo.
This segment's going to be a little different. It's probably one of the more different ones I've done, especially solo here, but I just always think it's better when you have a personal relationship with the listener, with the viewer. That's always what you try to do in this business, tell a little bit more about yourself so you can decide whether or not you really like me or you actually be like, you know what, I really don't like that guy. But I'm trying to figure out in 2014 what the rules are when it comes to selling out other dudes. And this weekend, like a lot of you hear about a football player calling out DeMarco Murray for cheating on his situation or sleeping with this guy's wife. Okay, Brendan Clay was a running back at Oklahoma with DeMarco Murray in 2010. He was on the Broncos practice squad or something, and then he was leaving and he was going to the San Diego Chargers for a tryout, and he found out that his wife was sleeping with DeMarco Murray. Okay, I mean, this is all the things that he alleges, and it immediately blows up. Why? Right? Because it's sex, it's scandalous, it's famous names. How is DeMarco Murray going to respond? And by the way, he's not commented on this at all, so you kind of left to go, well, wait a minute, he's nothing to say. Brendan Clay left a tweet out there. He said, and this is his allegation, this is back on November 30th, DeMarco Murray was having an affair with my wife. I'm done, at DeMarco Murray and at the woman's name. He has a baby mama, and she has 2 kids. And apparently the story goes, too, is that he was kissing her kids goodbye right before he got on a plane to go try out for the Chargers, and then she immediately was texting with Murray, and then he started taking screen grabs of Murray's text conversations with his wife. And, I mean, it was salacious stuff. Clay, to his credit, left the tweets up. Like, I don't care. He even complimented DeMarco Murray later on for having a good game. He also said to a lot of people, why are you giving me a hard time? Why are you getting mad at me for putting this stuff out there? This is my wife. He apparently told TMZ he was filing for divorce. He also tweeted something about when it snows, do ants just stash away mad food? So a lot of different stuff on that Twitter feed for you. Joseph Fourier, tight end for the Detroit Lions, has a touchdown this weekend, Sunday night around midnight, tweets out essentially at Russell Wilson, hey, Russ, enjoy her, his girlfriend's name, with her Twitter handle. She had me thinking she was a loyal girlfriend. I almost feel you, Brendan Clay, the guy we were just talking about with DeMarco Murray. Fourier, by the way, had since apologized and deleted the tweet saying he had no idea Russell Wilson was tweeting out Thomas Jefferson and Thoreau. Is this what it is now? Because think about when and I know we have listeners that are really young and we have older guys. Our audience is very, very great when it comes to that, the wide-ranging age. So you have to just kind of think of where you were at a certain time in your life. And if I think back to when you are dating and things get messed up and a guy messes with you and you want to get back at him, right? You want to get back at him. And we say it all the time because it happens to almost everybody at some point, at least once. You go, I'm going to get that guy. And you know what happens? You almost never get that guy. You just don't. I mean, there are the few instances, maybe you see him and you yell at him. Maybe it actually leads to a fight, although there's nothing worse than losing your girl than also getting mopped. That's not a great story to tell anybody. But that's just the way we are. Immediately, you're emotional. I want revenge. I want to get this guy. How do I get him? How could he do this to me? How could she do this to me? I'm going to sell everybody out. And essentially, prior to social media, it was kind of impossible to really make any kind of impact. And what I'm wondering now is, if today the rules are, and it's not like it just started happening in the last 11 months, the calendar year of 2014, but are we to the point where this is completely socially acceptable, and this is what you should expect to have to happen to you if you're in the public eye and you get mixed up with somebody else's lady? SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com. I went out with somebody from work a long time ago, both part-time workers at the time, lived in the same building, not a huge secret. And I used to have to deal with stuff. This place is awesome. We have all sorts of people coming in and out, but you also have an element of where you have the guy who's invited for the day to kind of hang out, former coaches, former players, and a lot of those guys have big-time resumes and definitely think highly of themselves. Most of them aren't great like any place. And every now and then you run into a couple knuckleheads who think it's their own personal happy hour. And there's one guy in particular who I'm not going to say whether he's a former player, I'm not going to say whether he's a former coach, but he shows up to this place and acts like every girl is here for his taking. I'm going to hit on every one of them. I'm going to ask everyone for his phone number, every one of them their phone number. I'm going to send them gifts. I'm going to try to get them to follow me back and forth on Twitter, DM them all the time. And because he basically wouldn't stop, was trying to do it to my girlfriend at the time. And, you know, she's like, look, I'm dating somebody, he works here, and he said, bleep your boyfriend. Okay? He said, bleep your boyfriend. So the story got back to me, and I I'm emotional. I'm upset. This is somebody I care about. I go, I have this job, but he's more of a public figure. I want to get back at him. I honestly felt that way. I'm like, this guy, I'm not going to say whether he's married or not, but I'm like, how could I do this? How could I get back at this guy for thinking he can come up here and not just do this to me, but to interact with almost every female here? And you can figure it out. Like, we'll have some rappers up here. We'll have some artists up here. I mean, look, that's just the way it works. I'm famous. I'm young. I'm surrounded by pretty girls. I'm going to ask you what's going on, okay? And I get that. But then there's a level where you just go, okay, back off. And this guy wouldn't back off. He won't back off. He never will back off, okay? So I thought about it. I thought about sending a tweet his way and saying something. Like, hey, you coming back up, whenever? Make sure you say hi to all, 2,000-plus females that are working here. I thought about it. I mean, look, I'm just trying to be as honest as I possibly can, because when I read this story this past weekend of Brendan Clay, I go, I feel bad for him. But, man, is this the way to go about it? Like Joseph Fourier. Like, are you cool in doing this? Or do you look like a chump because you're going to Twitter to call out another NFL guy for maybe taking your girlfriend? I mean, you look even worse now that you're like, oh, I deleted it, didn't know all the facts. I mean, that's the difference, probably still playing for a team like Fourier and Clay is trying to sign on. He doesn't have anybody from a team PR saying, can you delete the tweets about DeMarco Murray sleeping with your wife? Could you do that for the team? Because he'd rather you stop doing that kind of stuff. But I never did anything. I don't think I ever will. I wanted to. I was mad. I was emotional. I think anyone listening, I mean, especially if you had a wife. Like, can you imagine somebody messing with your wife? Like, you can care about a girlfriend, but when you start talking about somebody who's now part of your family, maybe you have kids with her, I get where these guys are at. I get where they're coming from with this, because I felt it. I think all of us have at some point. But I'm still not willing to accept that this is the best way to go about it, and I'm not giving you an alternative. I'm not telling you, well, there's actually this thing you can do that's far better. The best way to get revenge on anybody but anyone is just to be successful and have a job that you care about and be happy. I mean, I know it sounds really adult and cliche-ish and stupid, but the best revenge is being successful and trying to find a way to be happy. But I look at this stuff and go, this is clearly going to be the norm. This is what is going to be. Like, there are younger people listening to me right now going, yeah, why wouldn't you just tweet at some dude who's sleeping with your wife? Like, get that stuff on Facebook, man. Retweet that. Will you hey, this guy's hooking up with my girlfriend, Russillo. Could you retweet this? Could you get it out there a little bit more? And that's what I'm basically saying. I was asking this question at the beginning of the segment, going, are these the new rules? But as I kind of talk it out and think about it, these are the new rules. This is what it is now. And it's only going to get worse.
SVP and Russillo.
Sweet buckets.
Outsider Mike. How would you fix the Knicks, bro?
Well, Semper and Hardaway Jr. you got to keep. Those guys are your future. Going to get a good pick this year, it looks like.
Not owed to anybody?
Huh?
It's not owed to anybody?
Not owed to anybody? No, for a change.
Just making sure.
Yep. So we'll get a good pick this year. Keep those guys mellow. I heard. Now, let me ask you: is it possible that we can get Gasol next year? Because that's what pretty much every Knicks fan is like banking on.
Free agency hasn't really worked out for you guys too much. It's not like Memphis is going to have more money with a new TV deal to keep him around. So he's their most important player. I don't know. I would doubt that would happen. What about Bargnani, a fellow Paisan? You don't want him on the squad?
So he's hurt. Came over as hurt. Now he's hurt now.
He will be 40 and retired, and I will say I still believe there's a role on a good team for Bargnani. Not him being the main guy. The fact that you had to give up draft picks to actually trade for him aren't terrific. That's about it. I don't really know how much more I have to say. I kind of want to do that Knicks segment with you. So,
not giving me much hope.
Well,
like what's a Knicks fan like me to hope for? If everything lines up, what's the best possible scenario?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, what magic trick are they going to pull? The only way you get better in this league, there's three ways, okay? You get really lucky in the draft. You are a destination for free agents, not just based on market and city and weather and all that stuff, but also that there's already an awesome guy playing there, okay? That's why the Miami thing worked out, because Wade was already there and said, it's also Miami Beach, come on down. And number three is a prime star is so mad at his franchise, he demands out, they grant his wish, and you pay 50 cents or less on the dollar for him. The Garnett thing with Minnesota. So Celtics fans do the same thing. They look at the roster and go, well, this piece, that piece. Say what you want about the roster. The only reason Marcus Smart's the most interesting piece is because you don't know what he can't do yet. And they had Al Jefferson. You can laugh about it, but Al Jefferson was more of an enticing piece in the Garnett trade than anything they currently have on the roster now. Boom.
SVP and Russillo.
Skills. Top rank, point blank, we vital. Spit flows, rip shows, peep the recital. Skills. Now you feel it when we drop those. Hot beats, stop foes, killing it, we got those.
Skills. Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.